All right, welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant. I'm Graham Giason Matthews, and today we're breaking down the 2013 installment of WWE Elimination Chamber. And a lot like the 2012 installment, I watched this show live from Buffalo Wild Wings, so a great experience while watching it, but the show itself, not too great watching it back on the WWE Network. But nevertheless, opening the event was for the World Heavyweight Championship, Alberto Del Rio defending against The Big Show. In a decent match, I enjoyed their two last man standing matches more on SmackDown and the Royal Rumble respectively. I'm not exactly sure why we had to sit through another match between the two at the February pay-per-view. Like I said, not a bad match. They had a lot better chemistry together with Del Rio as the babyface and Big Show as the heel, as opposed to the other way around when they worked together a couple of years earlier. It's still a good match to kick off the show. The World Heavyweight Championship should never kick off a pay-per-view, but by that point, the title basically meant nothing, so it's not like it really mattered. But good match for the most part up until the finish, which looked a bit botched. It was something with Ricardo throwing in the fucking can that he was carrying around at that time with Del Rio as a babyface. I have no idea why. But it barely, I think it was supposed to be up against Big Show's head, and Del Rio was supposed to kick it, but he missed. It looked really bad. They recovered nicely, but it looked like a bad spot, and Del Rio won that way to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. So, a good match up until the botch finish, but I won't let that ruin it for me. I still thought it was an alright match. Not as good as their previous encounters, but still pretty decent. So after that, for the United States Championship, another Royal Rumble rematch between Antonio Cesaro and The Miz. Again, a decent match. I enjoyed the Rumble match more. The match on the Royal Rumble pre-show, just because, I don't know, it felt fresh, and this was still fresh, but it really wasn't much of a feud. I couldn't tell you anything that happened during the course of this feud over in early 2013. And this is coming from someone who remembers a lot of things, but I can't remember one thing these two did other than their matches on pay-per-view. So not really a strong feud. And the worst part was that Miz lost via disqualification. Not saying he should have won here, but the finish looked awful. Del Rio, considering he won clean on the Rumble pre-show, albeit Miz was hurt during the match, in storyline, but to have the rematch at the Chamber pay-per-view end in a DQ was a bit lackluster. So Cesaro retained after an inadvertent low blow from Miz. That was a bit weak, and they didn't even continue the feud going into WrestleMania. They ended it on SmackDown a couple weeks later, so it was kind of useless. After that, an Elimination Chamber match to determine the number one contender to the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 29. The combatants included Kane, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, Mark Henry, and Jack Swagger. A very good Chamber match, probably my favorite match in the entire show. In the first time, and not too long, they had a number one contenders Chamber match in 2011 as well. But I thought this match was really, really good. All six men, former world champions. Team Hell No members didn't tease much tension, and they were gone pretty quickly, Kane and Daniel Bryan. But when it came down to Swagger, Orton, Jericho, and Henry was the next one to go after taking a finisher from all three men. But he demolished everyone on his way out, inducting everyone into the Hall of Pain. So that was a great way to keep Mark Henry looking strong. I think Jericho was the next one to go, or rather, I think Jericho was the next one to go. I was really hoping he would win and then go on to face Ziggler for the World Championship at WrestleMania, because I figured Ziggler would cash in on that night. He didn't, but anyway. So Jericho was the next one to go, and then Swagger in the end pinning Randy Orton to become the number one contender in shocking fashion. So up until this point, Swagger was a nobody. He had just come back right after the Rumble. They did the whole "We the People" thing, and he would get in trouble for the whole, the racist gimmick a couple of days later on Raw or whatever, when they did the whole Glenn Beck thing. That wasn't an angle. He legitimately got angry and whatever. That was stupid. And then he got busted for DUI, or maybe it was before that. I have no idea. But anyway, he debuted his new entrance music that he has to this day on this show. So that was cool. So, it became evident from that point forward that they're going to be trying to aggressively push him going into WrestleMania. And not that Swagger wasn't good, not that he isn't good, but I just thought it was a silly match to do at WrestleMania. I talked about this in my WrestleMania 29 review last year. But Swagger and Del Rio was, at best, a SummerSlam World Championship match, not at WrestleMania. That screamed mid-card, and it took place in the mid-card of the show. Towards the second half, but still, it was a mid-card match. And not a really good match at that, not really worth it. So, I was surprised that Swagger won. It was better than Orton Orton facing Del Rio or Sheamus or whoever at a WrestleMania for the championship. It was something new, I guess. But just Swagger did not really feel like a true threat to the World Championship at that time. Again, like I said, another rant for another day. The Shield taking on John Cena, Ryback, and Sheamus in six-man tag team action. I had my guard up for a Shield loss here. I figured that this would be the second coming of the Nexus. that they would run into the roadblock that was John Cena, but they did not. They would win the match clean. It was a great finish, too, because on Raw, I remember this much about the build, was that on the go-home episode of Raw before this pay-per-view, Cena, Sheamus, and Ryback went 3-on-3 with 3MB, and they beat them all in that 6-man tag team match. And to end the match, they all hit their finishers at the same time. They tried to do the same thing here with John Cena, I think, and Ryback as well, trying to go for their finishers on 2 members of the Shield. And I think it was Ryback trying to hit the shell shock on Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns runs in, spears the living hell out of Ryback. Rollins covers. He, flips from his shoulders on the top of Ryback. Scores the clean win on Ryback. So that was very surprising. If anything, I thought they would cheat to win, but they didn't. They won clean, so a huge victory for the Shield. And, Cena would go on to main event WrestleMania. So all these guys went their separate ways. Ryback went on to face Mark Henry, and Sheamus continued the feud with the Shield going into WrestleMania. But a huge win for the Shield and a very entertaining 6-man tag team match. They're only their second match in WWE as a team. The first one being, of course, TLC 2012. And that was an amazing match, too, and this one kind of continued that streak. And this would, it became evident at this point that all of their matches involving the Shield would be very entertaining from that point forward. But, yeah, very good match and a great result. After that, Dolph Ziggler coming out and saying why he wasn't on the show, blah, blah, blah. I think it was Booker T saying you're going to face a mystery opponent. I was really hoping it was Christian, but it was Kofi Kingston. A decent match. They only went a couple of minutes. Ziggler won. Ziggler and Kingston have had so many matches. They have great chemistry together, but it's a match by that point we had seen a million times over. I just had zero interest. And Big E beat up Kofi Kingston after the match, and I figured that would lead to a Mania match or something. It didn't. I think it was more over than anything else, just a way for WWE to showcase the skills of Big E before he made his in-ring debut at WrestleMania. But yeah, decent match. Like I said, I was really hoping Ziggler... his moment when he cashed in was amazing, the night after WrestleMania, so probably worked out for the better. But I was really hoping he would cash in ahead of time and then face Chris Jericho at WrestleMania for the World Championship, because that was the feud that made sense. That was a logical route to take, and they didn't go that route, whatever. But still, decent match, and it just made no sense to me to have Ziggler, after beating John Cena in the main event of TLC, no less than 2 months earlier, did not even have them on the card. He won the match here, he got on the card, but he wasn't in an advertised match at Elimination Chamber, which made very little sense to me. So for the Divas Championship, Caitlyn taking on Tamina Snuka. Really, no one really gave a shit. The feud is pretty much non-existent. Caitlyn won, she retained the belt, moving on. Main event for the WWE Championship, The Rock defending against CM Punk. I could have sworn it was a no disqualification match. I guess it wasn't. The stipulation was that if Rock got counted out or disqualified, he would lose the belt. But there was like a number of referee knockouts and whatever. I figured The Undertaker would get involved here. They would kick off the Punk and Taker feud a couple of weeks later. But I figured the lights would go out. He would help Rock win. He didn't. But still a very, very good match. In my personal opinion, better than the Rumble match. The Rumble match for some people might be better just because that was the night The Rock won the belt, and it was, the story was better going into it. The feud wasn't as strong going into the rematch, but I still thought it was a very, very good match and a better wrestled match than the one of the Rumble, and a better finish too. Rock retained again and Punk lost again, but I don't know, I just enjoyed this match a lot more than I did at the Rumble, because I felt like there might have been a chance they might put the belt back on Punk to do a triple threat at Mania with Cena, Rock, and Punk. I felt like the match of the Rumble was way too predictable. But anyway, I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was very, very good. So Rock, still the WWE Champion. And that was the Elimination Chamber 2013. So on the whole, not a very good show. I know I praised a few of the matches, but is it worth watching in its entirety? I would not say so. It's a pretty dead show for the most part. If anything, the Elimination Chamber match I thought was great. The Shield 6-man tag team match was also very well wrestled, and the main event was pretty entertaining too. So by and large, I guess it was a decent show. I don't know. I just didn't really care for this show too much because WrestleMania 29 sucked. So kind of know where all these storylines were going. But yeah, if anything, watch for the Chamber match. If you want to stick around for the 6-man tag team match or the main event, go right ahead. The rest of the card isn't really anything special. The World Championship match was not as good as the Rumble match between Big Show and Del Rio. The U.S. title match, throwaway. Divas title match, the definition of throwaway. And Ziggler and Kingston was just forgettable, too. So on the whole, middle-of-the-road show. Like I said earlier, I enjoyed watching it live at Buffalo Wild Wings, which I can no longer do now because they have the network, and they stopped doing that, unfortunately. But still, on the whole, it had its moments, but still not a blow-away show, which is not really too surprising considering it was the Elimination Chamber, and those pay-per-views were ever really must-see, with the exception of the 2011 installment, which I talked about last week, which I thought was amazing. But that's it, guys. My review of Elimination Chamber 2013. As always, thank you for watching and listening. And if you want to support the show, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All support is just amazingly appreciated. I'll be back over the weekend with my full review of Elimination Chamber 2014, also as seen on the WWE Network. So in the meantime and in between time, folks, have a great rest of your week. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch you guys down the road.